there's a big chance your child might be bullied, whether it's for dancing or for something else.
Hey mom, can I enroll for dance classes? I really enjoy this.
It breaks this stereotype of what is like a gender, what is
Correct.
masculine, what is feminine, and they would call it girly.
It's the way how society tends to put things into boxes. Certain activities are meant for the boys and certain activities are meant for the girls.
You're not lying about your passion.
Comments like that are hurtful. Comments like that are painful to the dancer.
When your child is bullied, the first thing as a parent or me as a mom, I want to defend my child.
This is a dilemma that every parent will face, like when to step in and when not to step in. 95% of the boys in dance face some sort of discrimination that the fathers themselves don't know how to classify this, how to talk about the subject, how to prepare for it is really important as a parent.
If your child can be brave, so can you as a parent. We had our studio for over 16 years and there's many of these stories, and that is why we wanted to share this video. Right now, there's a talented young boy somewhere who just quit dancing. Not because he's not interested or not because he's not talented enough, but someone called dancing girly, and he didn't have the armor to face it. Today, we're talking about boys, ballet, and bullying. And we're gonna start with the story.
I wanted to start with the story about Alex. Is a boy, a brother of one of our dancers, and he came to join a camp over the summer, and he started off a little bit awkward, a little bit shy, and a little bit overwhelmed, so to speak. So we had this at the end of the camp. We had this recital, the showing for the parents, and his mom came to watch brother and sister dancing, and I remember she had tears in her eyes, and because Alex was really doing well. He knew his steps. He had an excellent feel for the space.
He actually
And
got
he was really musical, and he
Yeah.
was really enjoying
He
himself.
had a nice role in the piece also. The choreographer noticed him.
Yes, indeed. And so the show ended, and all the kids were hugging the parents, and I remember that Alex was tugging on the sleeve of his mom, and he said like, hey mom, can I enroll for dance classes? I really enjoy this. There was this bit of an awkward pause, and I remember she just looked at him and she said, what would your dad say? And so with these 5 words, she kind of like put a stop to it, put an end to that discussion. And unfortunately, we never saw him again.
And unfortunately, this is not the only story we can share. We had our studio for over 16 years, and there's many of these stories, and that is why we wanted to share this video.
So Alex never returned to the studio. What happened to make such a proud moment end so abruptly? According to some research, we know that about 95% of the boys in dance face some sort of discrimination, some sort of name calling, some sort of teasing over the career of a dancer. When you look at the dancers, it's a very harsh reality for all of the boys, and we believe that every boy needs to have this certain kind of armor and protective shield around them to be able to continue with their dancing.
Right. And often it's not because people don't like dancing. It's because it breaks this stereotype of what is like a gender, what is masculine, what is feminine, and they would call it girly because they assume that dance is not for boys. It's like only for girls. And the thing is, it doesn't just come from family, like in Alex's case, from the mom or the dad feeling anxious, but it's more than that. It's often the school friends, the community, people around them who might drop these random thoughts.
There is this term called gatekeeping, or actually more specifically called masculine gatekeeping. It's the way how society tends to put things into boxes, and so certain activities are meant for the boys and certain activities are meant for the girls. And this social this norm has carried on since centuries, I believe. Um, I think ever since the time of the church, ever since the time of
It has to do also with the cultural and the politics system, like what is meant for a man, what is meant for a female.
right.
And so just breaking those gender stereotypes often comes with ridicule and bullying.
Correct. And I think it brings up also in both alike for men and women, so especially the adults, their own fear kind of like arises because of this gatekeeping, and they probably are doubtful of their own thoughts and doubtful of how they should feel about it, and they're also doubtful about what their own friends and family and the greater community would
We'll
think
say,
over them.
yes, exactly.
Right.
And that comes like the triangle of anxiety. So you have the anxiety of the child, you have the anxiety of the parents, and the anxiety of the community. And that forms a triangle. And one reaction actually fuels the other one. So it's
Correct.
like a loop. So when a child feels, am I fitting in? Am I doing the correct thing? The child wants to be seen and respected. And there's a young boy with us who decided to introduce himself in a sports camp. It was like a camp for all new children. And he decided to say, hello, I do breakdance and hip hop, because they had to say what kind of sports they were doing. And only after day 3 of the camp, he said, actually, I also do ballet and jazz, contemporary and modern dance. And he said, the thing is, I wanted to make friendships first and see who I could trust before sharing that kind of information. It's not that I want to keep it secret, but it's just safer to wait to completely tell what I love doing, because
Do you think it's a good strategy for
I
male
do
dancers?
I do understand that not everyone can cope with it, and you're not lying about your passion, right?
That's true.
But you just like testing. Can I trust this person? And
Correct.
once you have true friends, they'll cheer for you, they'll be happy for you, they'll ask how was recital, or they'll buy tickets and even watch you dance. But of course, first you need to find that community of trust.
Yeah, I think also boys generally tend to be more open with their trust
Yeah.
with everyone
They'll
in
have
general.
many friends, right?
Yes,
As where
exactly.
a girl will like have one or two good friends. So boys
Correct.
just have many, many
So
friends.
maybe they should just be taught, different strategies on how to
Right.
just be a little bit careful and who and with whom that they share their information with.
And then the second part of the triangle brings us to the parents.
Ooh, the parents.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, this is equally important because, like we mentioned before, the anxieties, the dreads, and the worries of the parents rise up when this particular issue is brought up, especially with their child dancing, and their own questions about their own, sexuality, their own ideas about the social norms get brought up, and this is like questioned, and again you have these boxes where they're placed into like what a girl does, what a boy does, and how are they going to handle this. And I think a lot of parents are quite um, clueless about this situation. Not that I blame them.
No.
It's just that it's a unique junction in
Yeah,
time in our society when we
right.
start to bring these topics up.
Mhm.
When you talk about when all kinds of boundaries get kind of like grayed out, and
And
you
then,
have this larger discussion as what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman,
yeah,
right?
and especially as a parent, our advice would be like, think like, what does my child need, instead of thinking what will the other person think. And that is a main thing. Just focus on your child. Your child needs your support in this matter, and don't think what will society think. And that brings us with the third one, the society circle. And the society might be brothers, sisters, families, friends, the neighbor. And the thing is, like, everyone has an opinion, right? It's like we met a friend last week who had a beautiful sentence about opinions.
He said that opinions are like assholes and everyone has one.
Exactly.
And
Exactly that.
yeah, there's the thing about the society is that it could be like in just dropped in innocent comments, just around a dinner table. A family member might just drop in like, "Oh, you're dancing, and that's so sissy," and comments like that are hurtful. Comments like that are painful to the dancer. And what happens is that mostly a dancer, especially a male dancer, will try to win approval especially from his parents, and also the male role models in the family or in society at large. And if they don't meet up to the expectations, they might start to change their own behavior. They might try to act more, let's say, masculine or macho, and become more aggressive in their tone. They might bring their behavior might change. They either might
Yeah.
become more silent,
Just to
more
compensate for that
right,
insecurity.
right,
On the
indeed.
other hand, as we said, it fuels each other in anxiety. On the other hand, and that's the beautiful part, what we want to talk to you about,
Right.
is if the dancer itself is more confident and the parent stands behind the dancer and educates the society around them, it loops the other way around, and there's more comfort and more pride, actually.
That's correct. And if all three points of the triangle can start to build up the courage to talk more openly about and communicate about and share the wins and losses and what you learn along the journey, and especially focusing on the child itself, the male child itself. It's what he wants, what makes him happy, what fulfills his dreams and his desires.
So, Justin, you are a dancer, a choreographer, studio owner, but especially you're also a dad of a dancing boy. What could you tell to the dads? What is their role?
I think if I would talk about it for myself personally, I would really look up to a male role model, especially my father. To be able to say, I achieved something, I've been good at something, and to get that approval would be significant for me. So, according to some research that we found online, we know that only about 32% of the male dancers get an approval from their father. So that's shockingly low. And like we talked about before, it's probably be due to the fact that the fathers themselves don't know how to classify this, how to talk about this subject. So I think it's extremely important that a father, especially a father, steps up and educates himself on these topics, learns how to communicate, with their child, with their son, and also to the larger community to step up for them and to say, hey, listen, I don't understand a lot about this, but I am, let's say, for example, really proud of your commitment to whatever you're doing. And those are the qualities that make you, let's say, for example, stoicism, let's say, for example, of resilience, not giving up and going through and fighting the odds is also what makes a man, I suppose, right?
Exactly, and how brave they are to
Correct.
stand with their passion and just go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how about you as a mom?
Well, the thing is, as dance is more a girl's world, um, it might be different, but on the other hand, I do remember one little story. It was Father's Day. Our son was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and every boy could bring and girl could bring an object to the classroom that reminded them of their dads. So some kids brought a hammer because the dad liked doing these things, or something from the garden, but our son brought ballet slippers to the classroom. And I said, wow, you're quite brave to introduce this. He says, yeah, because I'm proud of my dad. He's a dancer and I'm going to talk about it in the classroom. So he brought his ballet slippers at that age. I'm sure you were the only dad with ballet slippers.
I'm 100% sure about that.
But it just shows how secure he felt, and how for our son it was okay to share this. And actually, he was educating his class and the teacher at that moment, and it's just such a beautiful memory that I have of that. And the thing is, if your child can be brave, so can you as a parent.
Still, even with this support from home, you may start to notice a change in your child's behavior. So we'll talk about how to spot the signs now
Of bullying.
of bullying and distress.
So often you might notice that your kid is less excited about going to dance class. You might wonder, hey, I notice something changed. Do you want to talk about it? They might even hide their dance shoes or pretend that they lost something, just find excuses to have to go to class. Another thing is that your child might become more silent, so that you notice something in the emotions have changed,
They
or
start to withdraw from conversations, or they would avoid a conversation. Imagine that you as a parent would say, how was dance class? And they would say, they would just shrug it off or
yeah,
just mumble something. These are signs of that there's something
going
going
on.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the bullying happens in school, especially, it might happen in school. You might see that the grades are dropping, or that there's more remarks from the teacher,
Right.
like a behavior is changing. Um, and the thing is that the bullying might happen. Like there's a big chance your child might be bullied, whether it's for dancing or for something else. So it's actually good that you notice these signs.
Yes. And also you might also notice that there is a shift in the behavior towards being tougher, I suppose.
Or the language
How the
changes,
language becomes more aggressive,
more
or
aggressive, or
yeah.
yeah,
And it's only you as a parent who can notice this, because you will notice that shift immediately.
yeah. Like a happy kid might suddenly burst like a volcano with no reason, and then you know something is going on.
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand as a parent that, let's say, we've already mentioned about more than 90% of the kids, especially dancers, male dancers, male dance boys, will face some sort of teasing, will face some sort of criticism, will have comments following him. So it's important to understand that this is to be expected, and how to prepare for it is really important as a parent. And to be able to talk about it, keep the communication lines open, is extremely important, because it always starts small and then it builds up over time. And so we could, as parents, talk more frequently in the family itself, but also to the larger community, to the teachers, to family members, to the dance educators. I think that's really important to have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
going.
And the thing is, if a child feels the support, if the
Right.
child has friends, or in the dance club, there's a whole bunch of friends for them, there's friends at home, he can talk to the parents, the child will feel more protected and more self-confident.
Right. The fact that someone close to the dancer notices that there's a problem, and he feels seen and he feels heard, that will also help to bring the problem out into the light and to be able to find solutions for it.
Yeah, so the first thing is like really having that safe space, what we just talked about with the friends and family and
Right.
the dance friends. The second thing that might be very important is like the reframing of the name calling, or using humor. When someone is gonna say, "Oh, dancing! I thought dancing is for girls. Are you girly?" That a boy can like say, "Hey, I know dance isn't for everyone. You have to be brave to be a dancer, but I like it. What do you like?" You know, like just throwing the ball back,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe something that would become emotional just changes, and the atmosphere changes of this conversation.
Yes, and I think this preparation is crucial and critical if you want your male dancer to be able to dance long. It is just the whole point of this exercise, to be able to give them plenty of time to develop until they themselves become strong enough due to the training.
Right.
They become more confident due to their experiences, and they can take this further into the future. And that's the whole point of this
Yeah.
exercise, to give them time, to give them support and time.
And the thing is, like, we would practice this in role playing. Like, kids might say this, and you might say that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to give them find like good role models, especially male role models. You can even bring it from other sectors apart from dancing. For example, you can tell them the story about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was arguably one of the most famous bodybuilders who used ballet to be able to pose better so that he could win more championships. He hired a female trainer, and
Right.
she helped him to move gracefully from one pose to another. And this is has been copied by many other bodybuilders coming to the competitions. We could talk about stories about, for example, soldiers from the South Korean army who day in and day out have to guard the DMZ zone, and to be able to relieve the stress and to change their focus, they use ballet training. And I think these are beautiful stories that
Yeah.
can be told to your child,
Yes.
and
And
that will
there's
help
plenty.
reframe
Yeah.
the concept of what is masculine and what is
Right.
feminine. And
And luckily, there's YouTube and socials, and there's so many beautiful male dancers who are so athletic and so strong. So there's a lot of role models for your child, even if your kid is one of the only boys in the dance class.
yes, and so moving on, let's talk about how fathers can change the conversation. I think it's important that as a father, it's important to be just simply be present. You don't have to use big words or statements, but I think it's just being present, and you have this presence in the background of the male child, right? Um, and if there are, of course, negative comments, or yeah, statements being thrown out by the larger community, that the father can step in and deflect those comments away from the child.
When your child is bullied, the first thing as a parent or me as a mom, I want to defend my child, right? The thing is with the bullying, when it's minor bullying or teasing or name calling, it might be good for your child to handle it with the tools that we just discussed,
Right.
so that your kid can learn to handle that and to develop a thicker skin. The thing is, if we're gonna jump in straight away
Right.
for everything, the bullying will keep following the child. No
Right.
matter where the kid will go, if they change schools or something, the bullying will follow
Right.
because they haven't learned how to deal with it.
Yeah, because this is not just an isolated incident in a particular school or in a particular community. I think this is a global thing, and we should look. You have these actions that you take locally, but you must have a view about it globally, because this is a global issue,
Yes.
and this is a global challenge for every male dancer. So because society overall has the same boxes for the male or the female dancer.
And I think, like, when I think of our son, he coped with it quite well because he learned by little things like, hey, I don't like this, or when you say no, it stops here. I don't like you saying this, or you have this kind of standard answers like, yeah, I know, I'm brave enough to go dancing. What about you? These kind of things, it sets the kid up to handle the bullying.
Yeah, because because we knew this was going to come, we decided between ourselves to focus on building their protective armor, so to speak.
Right.
But what happens when the bullying gets excessive?
So if there's like really physical harm or there's like a whole bunch of people, it gets dangerous, let's
Yeah, and
say.
I think when you start noticing behavior changes, that's when you should step in as a parent. Start talking to your dance teachers, start talking to the school teachers, yes, and step in and start to take action. I think this is a dilemma that every parent will face, like when to step in and when not to step in. And because the safety of your child is priority number one, and taking action when required is you don't need permission to do that. Just do it for
Yeah.
the safety of your child.
And that brings us to the end of this video. We hope with sharing this video that there's more support, more knowledge, and that boys feel that support, and parents and the community overall, what dance can mean for children and boys especially, like the
Right.
dedication, the grit, the
Right.
discipline, the flexibility, the power that they will gain.
Every dance school, every theater, every dance company, they really want to have more men involved in the arts, especially in dance. and I think it just brings a certain kind of energy that is we are really lacking. And to have more boys dancing is just a treat to watch, and I think they can take home and take away many positives into the rest of the careers, whether they become professional dancers or not. And I really hope, and our mission is to provide this sort of information so that more boys are involved.
And we hope if you're a dad or a mom with a son dancing, that you can just practice like one role play or have like
Right.
one scenario that your kids can keep in mind. And the second thing is that you're there for maybe one class the coming time or a recital or a show, and you're there for them.
So in the comments, we would love to hear what action you will take this week. And hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.